In this video, I'm going to be discussing running an action in Hotfolder where the action has a stop step in the action. And before I run it with Hotfolder, I'm just going to demonstrate this action here in the Photoshop Action panel. Now what a stop step does is it stops in the middle of the action so you can manually edit the photo and then continue the action. So if I just play the action here, the first part of this action created a black and white layer. Then when I hit stop, nothing else happens. So now this is ready for me to do any editing I need to do in Photoshop. And then when I hit continue or press the play button again, it's already on the next step after the stop, and it just continues on with the rest of the action. So now the rest of this action adds a sepia layer. I created just a basic action just for something quick to run so that we can visually see what's happening very easily. And so now I'm going to demonstrate what's going to happen if we try to run that action in Hotfolder. I'm just going to select that action, sepia with stop, and I'm not using any pause steps for this first demonstration. I'm going to show you what's going to happen without those. So it gets to that step in the action where you see it's made the black and white layer with the stop step. As soon as I hit stop though, it just continues on and saves that image and goes to the next one. If I look in the save folder, you can see those images are black and white, but they're not sepia. So what's happening is as soon as it hits this stop step and you click stop, that sends the I'm done signal from the action to Hotfolder. It thinks that action is completed, and so it just continues on with its processing, and in that case it just saves the image and opens the new image. So if you're running with a stop step, and this is with a single action only, I'll discuss the all actions after I'm done with the single action, but for a single action all you need to do is click this pause after action runs, and so it's going to send the signal saying I'm done, but then we're going to pause that so we can finish the rest of the action. So just let me demonstrate this here. So it now says stop for editing. I click stop. It sends a signal to Hotfolder saying, okay, I'm done with that action. And Hotfolder says, okay, we're done with the action, but we have the pause step selected. So now the user can do any editing they want. So now at that time, you can finish off your action after you're done with your editing. It's now going to finish the action, and then you can hit save and continue and go to the next action. So again, stop for editing. Now you do have to be careful though. I'm going to demonstrate what can happen to you if you go and do some editing. Just let me paint on this here. And then I'm going to hit the play action to finish it. But you notice this doesn't look sepia anymore. Well, that is because I changed the layer where I painted, and then when I hit play, it just went to the next step of the action and didn't realize it had to reselect the other layer it was on. So it got the layers out of order. I'm just pointing this out because if you stop, you can do any editing you want, but when you hit continue, you have to make sure you know what you're doing, or your action has to be set up properly to reselect that layer it was on. This is just a very basic example, but my only point is here is if you mess something up when you stop and it doesn't continue where it's supposed to based on the editing you've done, that's not the fault of Hotfolder. That's just, you need to know what you're doing with your actions. So just to point that out. So anyway, once I'm done here, save and continue, and now it's completed. Okay, so now that's pretty straightforward. Basically, if you use a stop step, make sure that you have the pause after action selected. Then when this stops, it's going to bring up your dialog for you to finish, and then you can complete your action. But the other thing is, if you hit run all actions and set, let me reopen the first file here. I'm going to explain what it is we'll be doing with all actions in this set. So there's two actions in this set here. And so if you run all actions as set, it'll run each of these one at a time. But this stop step is on the first action now. So let me play this and show you what should happen if you play these actions in sequence. It should go through, make it sepia, and then add the vignette. And it should add a vignette here. So this is what the final image should look like if you run both of these actions in full. But the issue is going to come up if you have a stop step and it's not on your last action. And there is no workaround for this. I'm just showing you this so you just know to avoid this situation. So if I hit pause after action runs, the same as we did before. Now it's at the stop step of the first action. I hit stop. But you see now it's already ran the second action and added the vignette after I hit stop, and then it stops. So the stop step in hot folder stops after all actions run. The stop step in the action was on the first action. And you remember when we talked about before, when you click stop, it sends the signal to the hot folder to say, okay, I'm completed. So hot folder says, okay, I'm done with the first action, go to the second. And it skipped the final steps of this first action. So if you need to run a stop in an action, you can only do it if it's the last action in the set of actions. If it's not, as soon as you hit stop, it's going to skip the rest of those steps and go to the next action and then stop when all of the actions are done. So if you need to use stop steps, you need to make sure you're doing it all in one action or it's your last action. So in this case, you would need to consolidate both of these actions into one and then put your stop step where you need it, and then it will run properly. I hope that makes sense, but that just is the way it is because of how the Photoshop is designed and the new API is designed and how everything works together. There is no way to have it so you can pause multiple times in different actions and then have it continue on. So, and this is kind of a fringe case scenario. For the most part, most of the time you're not going to be running all actions in set, and when you do, you're not going to be stopping in the middle of an action anyway. But just to point that out so you know that if you're trying to do what I just demonstrated, it's not possible to do. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope this video helps you to understand how the stop steps work and how to use those with Hot Folder.